In this episode, we're stepping into the sleek, shadowy world of the album Genesis by Genesis, the 1983 release that found the band fully embracing the sound of the decade without losing its edge. This record marked a major moment for Phil Collins, Tony Banks, and Mike Rutherford, with an album packed with tension, hooks, atmosphere, and some of their most unforgettable songs. Stay with us.
Get ready for the 3324 podcast, where lifelong friends Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber share their love of all things music and movies. Dean has directed short films and is a music trivia buff. And Eric, trained in audio engineering, brings his extensive knowledge of music and film to the conversation as they discuss, debate, and celebrate their favorite albums, films, and much more.
Welcome, friends, to the 3324 podcast in the midst of summer. If you're listening to this any other time than when we recorded it, you might be snuggled up by the fire in the winter. You might be raking leaves in autumn. You might be gardening in the spring, but we are doing it in the summer heat, and we've all got beverages in front of us.
Yes. It's like the post office, right? We're there throughout.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We need a slogan like that.
Yeah.
It's rain, winter, but we're just sitting sitting at our chairs in front of a microphone, so
it's hard work.
Really no excuse to not be doing this. It's actually more of a reason when you're indoors, is just let's be creative. And that's what we're doing each and every week. So if you're new, I shall meander no more and just simply ask you to go ahead and follow us on your podcast app that you're listening to us on. Hit the follow button. This way you get a notification when new stuff comes out. There's also a fan mail or message us button somewhere in there too, maybe where the show notes are. And if you want to interact with us, go ahead and do that, because we will interact. We'll get back with you. It's a great way to directly contact us. It's a line, literally. It's a can with a string, and we're on the can on the other side. It goes right to us, and we can interact with you. So we encourage you to do that. And then if you like it, our friends, the Care Bears, say sharing is caring.
Yes, it is.
Go ahead and share it with people.
Yeah. He's so eloquent, isn't he? The freaking tin can and string thing.
If I was a Care Bear, I'd be the Care Bear with the rainbow on its belly.
Or
the Shamrock. Was that Luck Bear?
I don't remember.
Kelly would know. She was into them.
No,
so.
I would be. Let us know. Let us know. Send us a message. Which Care Bear would you be if you were one? You have to go on Wikipedia and get the list. There was Heart Bear and Rainbow and all those different ones.
We'll get a ton of people responses to that.
I hope so.
The people don't want to respond to music, movies.
Yeah, but they'll hey, we gotta find out we gotta hit them where they live.
That's right.
Gotta hit you where you live.
Find that sweet spot.
That's it. Yep. Care Bear.
Yeah.
But go ahead and do that. And if you want to even hit us on the socials, we're on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So if you're listening to us on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. You don't follow. Subscribing is the same thing as following. So go ahead and do that. So we got that out of the way. We're going to get to the meat and potatoes, but first we have to, of course, introduce our guest here, Mr. Christopher Clark.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, thanks
How
for
are
being
you,
here,
sir?
I'm well. Summer has started. I got a little time off before summer school, so can't complain.
So you do your summer school as well, huh?
Yes, I do, man.
Oh, man.
I got a kid who's ready to start college. I got to figure out how to pay for that, right?
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep. So, but we're, getting ready to go away in a couple of days. And what better way to set off summer than to talk about a great album like the self-titled Genesis record.
Cool.
So
very cool. Yes. So Dean.
Yes.
You said you were excited to talk about this record.
I was, but now I'm not anymore.
Eric popped your balloon.
Yeah.
The dark cloud.
Because he questioned it. It totally took the thing. I was like, oh wow, he's surprised that I'm excited. Now I'm like, I really don't want to talk about this album.
Way to piss in the cornflakes, man.
Yeah, I'm kind of.
I'm glad. It makes me feel good because this album is for me it's comfort food.
Yeah,
I think out of all of the records, especially in the Phil era, this was this is the most nostalgic for me. I think for sure. Yeah, I think it was
absolutely. It's and that's what it is. It is nostalgic because when I went back and started thinking about it, it brought up a lot of memories of how much I actually love this album.
Yeah.
And I'll go through some of the I don't know if I'm going to use the word right, but some of the empirical evidence and surrounding actions that I took at the time that will hopefully
I think you talked about one of them already.
Make the case for it.
I think you talked about one of them already in a previous episode.
You think so?
I think it's been
you had a jacket with the clothespins on it or something.
We'll get to the clothespins. We will absolutely get to the clothespins. Clothespins notwithstanding, which we will get to. Let's do the stats because we're kind of getting far afield of that already. We got to stay on the agenda before we go there.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the stats. This was released in October of 1983, produced by Genesis, and I wrote Hi Padgham, but it's You Padgham. It's not Hi Padgham. And then there were 4 singles stateside released. There was 5 altogether because there was one more in the UK. But for us here across the pond, Mama was the first single, hit number 73. That's All was the second single, hit number 6. Illegal Alien was the third single, hit number 44.
I still can't wrap my head around that.
We'll get to it. So Illegal Alien was the third one, hit number 44, and then Taking It All Too Hard, hit number 50. So not very impressive chart performance, but it went to number 9 on Billboard, which is the first time they did crack. No, That's All hitting number 6 was the first time they had a top 10 single.
Yeah.
Number 9 on Billboard, 4 times platinum. So this was, a big seller, and there's a couple of things I think that we can attach to why this one sold so much. The least of which is Hello, I Must Be Going.
True. Yeah.
Right, Eric? I mean, this is we're still in the ramping up stage of Phil Collins. Like we did, and you can check out our Hello, I Must Be Going episode. Because Phil Collins is starting to power up as a solo artist, right? And he had You Can't Hurry Love, and he was kind of getting some more pop airplay with his music. And now Genesis reconvenes, right? And starts to roll into these sessions.
Was Face Value, in terms of chronology, was Face Value before Abacab or after Abacab?
It was before, I believe.
It was right before it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so you got a Phil Collins solo record, which was like more of a personal passion project, not kind of not sure what's happening with his career. Then they reconvene, do Abacab, some minor success there, No Reply at All, Man on the Corner, but it's still that proggy dark kind of sound. It's still kind of okay, not fully formed for mass consumption. Then you have Hello, I Must Be Going with I Don't Care Anymore. But, You Can't Hurry Love was kind of like, all of a sudden it's like a pop song. And it's like, oh, Phil Collins, he's kind of fun, so there's kind of a thing being built. And then the self-titled Genesis album, which this is called, it's also referred to as Shapes sometimes, which I never really I just called it Genesis,
Yeah.
But we, if we need to, clarify it, we'll say Shapes if we start talking about other Genesis albums at the same time. And then this would be different, Eric, right? From other albums that they would start to write, share writing credits altogether. The first time, I think, since The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway is on this album, there would be a main lyricist or somebody, but the writing credits would be all 3 of them as Genesis, which I read, I think Mike Rutherford said that's why the album is just simply named Genesis, because this is who we are. We're this is a group endeavor.
It was a
and the whole thing is that they had the studio, so they were writing. It wasn't bullshit. They were writing. The whole record came out of jamming in their studio. So it's fair to say that they all wrote it together.
There was no pre. They didn't come in with bits and pieces of stuff that they wrote, worked it up. This was, from the ground up. It was the genesis of a new era. I guess you could say.
Because I guess, Eric, they would normally kind of bring ideas or snippets of material, and then that person would get credit for the original germ of the idea.
Right. I mean, Hanks and Rutherford were always the dominant composers, songwriters since day one of the band's conception. Phil is now just starting to write, becoming a songwriter. So just, a couple albums in, now he's, writing these. So it's fair to say people or I think already like, oh yeah, they're pop because of Phil Collins. This still to this day, I disagree with that statement because to me they're still distinctively different. You go from one album to a next, from Hello I Must Be Going to this record, it does not sound like a Phil Collins solo record
No,
by any
absolutely not.
stretch.
Absolutely
So
not.
no.
And there's something to applaud him for that. But Chris, go ahead, jump in.
I was going to say, just to build on that too, I was always told to believe that if you're a prog Genesis fan, that you stop at Duke, which I've said in previous episodes.
Yeah.
This is a prog album.
Yeah.
It's not the same type of prog as like Foxtrot or Nursery Crime or Lamb or any of that. But I mean, it's progressive. Like I was very surprised that Mama was the first single. Like it did, because it's not something you would expect from an 80s pop single at all. And it's just, it's very ethereal and, it's very keyboard driven, right? It's haunting in a lot of ways. Like to me, the best tracks on the record are the elements that I think you could still define as prog. Now, is it the same as, again, it's not the same as like Squonk or Ripples or any of those, stuff from Trick of the Tail, but it in its own way, it is to me a very progressive album.
Yeah.
And I was proven very wrong about stopping at Duke by listening to this record. If I'm being
so you had never really listened to this album?
I mean, I knew That's All because I grew up as a kid in the 80s and it was on in the car all the time. But and then I had found a bootleg of Genesis performing live on the Invisible Touch tour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I had known Home by the Sea and Second Home by the Sea. I had known Mama. They used to open with Mama, right?
Yes, they did when we saw them.
So I was very, very.
They opened with Dodo Lurker when we saw them, right?
They did.
Whatever it was, Mama stuck out in my mind from that bootleg, and so I knew I would say a third to half the record before I even put it on, like, even though I had never really given it like a serious listen, and I regret not listening to it sooner, to be perfectly honest.
Wow.
So yeah, I really liked it.
So then, Eric, why was I guess we kind of touched on why you think I was surprised by it, which
I think not so much surprised as I was glad to hear it, because I think this was the album, if I'm not mistaken, that got you into Genesis. And it was because this was the show. We went to see them on this tour.
We did. We saw them in November of the year that this came out at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, so the album was brand new.
Yeah.
Just come out. So we were still, very much in the cassette deck or CD player.
Yeah.
I
was right there, but I had gotten Hello I Must Be Going when it came out. So I was already kind of like I was already kind of laying that foundation. Definitely listen to Abacab, but this would be the first new Genesis album that I was, when I became a fan, that came out.
Exactly.
Like, here, I got into Phil Collins, Eric, we're listening to Abacab, we're kind of, listening to all that other stuff. I get Hello I Must Be Going as a new release, and then the Genesis album comes out.
Yeah.
And like Chris said, with the first single or song being Mama, and the video and just the darkness of it, you gotta kind of give Phil Collins credit, but it's also to Genesis too, because again, it's a unit, and he at this time was still able to slot in between those two things, and in his solo career hadn't gone full, like No Jacket Required was on the horizon,
right,
and everything that meant, so he was still kind of hadn't gotten there yet.
So Hello I Must Be Going wasn't a big hit. Like I would think that one sold a few million copies.
It did, but it wasn't huge. He was still, like I said, when You Can't Hurry Love, that was like the biggest single. The album is a masterpiece. It's a wonderful, beautiful album. It's great. It's fantastic. It was the one I got into.
Mm-hmm.
But he still wasn't. He wasn't the grinning. Like that whole Phil Collins backlash era was kind of on the horizon. Like once you get to, No Jacket Required and Invisible Touch, like that's when like the stretch of like he's doing something every year and he's working with Philip Bailey and then he's working with it. Like we still weren't there yet. We were getting there.
Right.
To him, all of a sudden, Eric he's somebody coughs and he produced it. He produced the Kleenex for them.
And then he was always showing up playing drums, right? He showed up to play drums.
So we weren't there yet. So there's still that, that notion of Genesis as that, like you said, Chris, a prog band. But and when I was thinking about this album today, I'm like, this isn't pop prog, and it's not prog pop either. It's like prog rock pop. Because it's not just prog and pop. There's elements of rock in there too.
Oh, 100%.
That you need to kind of contend with. I can't just say it's either poppy or proggy. It's kind of poppy or proggy, but then it's also rock as well.
I mean, I would almost make the argument like and this is not to take away from it as a single. I think it's an amazing song. That's All doesn't really fit the rest of the record. Like in a lot of respects, like I was trying to think like if it was like well placed, but then because it comes between Mama and then Home by the Sea, and it and side one is a perfect side because all those songs are great songs, but like
I want to I want to respond, but Eric, go first.
I always said That's All to me. First of all, it's very Beatlesque.
Very much so, and they say that too.
And it's I think somebody said that it was their riff on sort of Rocky Raccoon or that sort of whimsical Paul McCartney. I should say more Paul McCartney than Beatles. Phil's drumming is heavily inspired by Ringo, the flams and all that kind of stuff, and which is really really great. But I think it works only because they've done this kind of thing before. And right. If there's an EP that came out in between, and then there were 3, I believe, in Duke. It was called Spot the Pigeon, and it had like 3 songs on it.
Is that the one with Paper Late on it?
No, it was, a song called Match of the Day, a song called Pigeons, and a song called Inside Out, which is typical like sort of Wind and Wuthering type Genesis. And these were 3 songs that had been recorded with Steve Hackett. And I think that, but the first 2 songs, like if you listen to those 2 songs and just how like, it's just throwaway, just whimsy, very British, very sort of like, like it's just, if to me, That's All kind of fits along with that sort of type of thing they were doing. So they weren't immune to doing silly things like that. Even if you go back and listen to some of their earlier stuff too, it's like certain sections of those long, like Supper's Ready and things like that have that kind of like sort of whimsy to it. So I think
flower.
So for me, That's All is sort of like a more refined 80s version of that kind of thing. So I think it's a phenomenal song.
Oh, I mean, I think it's a great.
It ages like fine wine. It's such a great great song. Yeah,
I mean, I agreed, especially since you're not hearing it every 5 minutes anymore. But right. But it wasn't even so much that I did. Like I said, I think they pull it off. I just was thinking like, would there be a better spot for it on the record? But then again, you take then it would disrupt the perfect side of music too. So
right.
Well, I think it's perfectly placed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what I wrote in my notes is like, for the casual listener, if someone's never listened to this, you might not be able to get past Mama with the, you might, that might be off-putting,
right?
Hearing that over and over.
Oh, that's great.
You couldn't wait to do that.
But if you can get past that, then all of a sudden, like the contrast between Mama and That's All is almost like the silence between them is almost deafening, because the way Mama ends and then That's All just begins so plainly.
Yeah.
Right.
And it made me appreciate that song even more, because when you hear it by itself, it can kind of be, okay.
Yeah.
That's all again. But when you hear it after Mama, and it just starts off very quietly, and it's just a piano, a simple piano, a simple drum, just a simple hi-hat, a simple song with a simple melody. And it's like, if you get past the gatekeeper, right? If you get past Mama, the rest of the album is on the other side for you. Because there's nothing like Mama. Like the rest of the album kind of feels in the same flow as that, you know, and it's almost like this thing is, it's almost like the Balrog in Lord of the Rings. Like if you can get past this song, because I love the song, but people might be like, oh, you know, I can't, you know, this is like,
Yeah, it was rather odd.
Yeah,
it's a single, and especially with that laugh. Like, what the hell was that? Like, where did that come from? You know, but yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
I mean, you guys obviously know where that came from, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Very much the Flash.
Yes.
Yes. But again, so that's the way it was always, you know, he even said so. He's like, everything I do is tongue in cheek. Everything is, you know, I tried to make, you know, it is, tries to bring the sort of the comedy to it. And that comes from the Beatles. That comes from that sort of like, we could be fun and
that, you know, British humor.
Exactly.
That dry British humor.
Right.
So I think that, you know, like for me, it was kind of an epiphany when I started re-listening to the album of how quiet that's all just kind of plainly starts after this big wall of sound and energy and threat. You know, the way the song is, it's just like this imposing thing. And then it's just kind of it's just kind of like just playing like almost like the previous song never happened. It's like it's almost like we just disregard that, and here's this, but that's that contrast really works.
Yeah,
because they're so different, you know. So that for me was kind of like listening to it again just made me love That's All that much more when it's contrasted like that. It was
almost like a payoff.
Brilliant placement of it.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
You know, for me, I just think I was like, you know, I just thought it worked so well. And then it sets up Home by the Sea and Second Home by the Sea.
Right. I love that.
You know, which again, I got when I was listening to Second Home by the Sea on Saturday.
Yeah.
I was driving and I actually started getting chills listening to it.
You got to crank that shit up.
Oh my God, it's so good. I had it on at the gym today.
What it was Phil's actual vocal performance, because he was doing things that he does things in Home by the Sea specifically that he stopped doing later on, which would be to his detriment.
Yeah.
Phil Collins can do that, like overdriven. When he goes up high, he kind of does that overdriven, almost kind of screamy sound.
Yeah.
But on Second Home by the Sea, he does it, but then he pulls the note back to a vocal note.
Yeah.
Whereas later on, it would all be that overdriven note held to the end. But on Second Home to the Sea, he's like when he's singing "Sit Down," and he's like "Sit down," and he's kind of, you know, overdriving it. But then he's at the tail end of the note, he's bringing his voice back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, God, that is so brilliant. Like that was probably why I fell in love with this, because he was really using his, you know, kind of maybe testing out that style of singing and really using it as a vocalist. And I got chills. I'm like, oh my God, like it's amazing back, how the control that he was exercising, which gave the song that much more impact.
Yeah.
You know,
what I read about what the song's about, I knew what it was about then, but now I heard that Second Home by the Sea is actually from the ghost perspective.
Yep.
It is their, like, they're telling their side of the story, like the robber is being sat down, and these ghosts are like telling their stories. And when you consider that in itself, it's very chilling. It's also very Genesis, right? It's very, it's a story. It's you know, it's not anything political or important. It's just they're telling a fucking story, which I always loved about them.
It's almost like Lamb, like the idea of like Rail going into the underworld and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
Home by the Sea, you got to really, I mean, I find that song the most effective when I really crank it up.
Yep.
Especially towards the end when things get like really loud and messy and Banks is doing all this and it's like, oh my God, it just builds to that, and then that crescendo, and then of course Phil with the refrain, he comes back in.
Yeah, and he sings the melody just a little different.
With that echo, with that heavy reverb. It's brilliant. Absolutely.
Yeah. The song itself is about a guy that breaks into a house
Yeah.
that's inhabited by ghosts and spirits, and he gets kind of stuck there, and they keep him there, and they're gonna make the robber like listen to their life, their stories, because they've been trapped in this house,
Yeah.
the whole time, and they're kind of like, we're here. So yeah, it's Tony Banks wrote that song.
Yep.
Brilliant lyrics, really, just really like like you said, a well encapsulated story. You don't need to know much. You just got to listen to it and let it unfold, and the visuals are there.
Yeah.
And then and when I was listening to that with Second Home by the Sea, I'm kind of like, oh, they kind of did an Abacab, like on the song Abacab, where you had a song proper, then at the end they decided to put a whole instrumental coda on the end of it, not in the middle.
And then they had done it previous with Trick of the Tail with Los Endos, same kind of thing.
So same type of thing. So it's kind of like a nice thing where they kind of give you the song, and then it's like, okay, now we're gonna freeform it for a while. Kind of do what we do. Yeah, you get a little bit of Mike Rutherford with the guitar.
And I was gonna, and to that point, Dean, that's what I was gonna say next. Is like they don't come in right away, but when Michael Rutherford really comes in with that guitar and the guitar starts to build, I mean, it's so brilliant. And it's not like he's doing anything overly flashy or trying to show off his chops.
No, it's just it's all just the atmosphere.
Effect. Oh my God, the atmosphere of that guitar is so good.
Ethereal. It's almost like a score, like a piece of music for a movie, which is I think the intent. Not that it was meant to, written for a movie specifically, but I think that
a cinematic feel to it.
Exactly, and that's why I love it.
I mean, that's always been Genesis's strength.
And when you consider when we saw them, remember the light show, Dean, in that song? I mean, like the Second Home by the Sea, especially,
There's not. I looked at the set list. I just looked at the set list today for the concert.
Yeah.
And I realized how out of depth I was going to that show.
It was so. I was surprised. I did the same thing. I actually have it on my phone.
Yeah.
I made a playlist based on that set list of and it's a great. I forgot how much old stuff they actually played.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God,
medley, but there was a lot of other shit that they played as well.
Wow, they really did. Holy cow!
Yeah, it was like you can't go by the video. The concert had only 10 songs, but there was about another
in the
5
cage. Wow.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, it's.
So we went in 1983 at Madison Square Garden, November.
Yeah.
I think it was the 17th. It might have been, which was the Thursday. I don't think we went to a Friday.
We saw them. Did we see them at the Garden, or was it?
They played at the Garden. They didn't play anywhere else in the area for that tour itinerary. I actually found online. I actually found their tour itinerary from the tour.
Yeah,
and it's a book, and that I guess like the crew got, and it says where they stayed. Like in New York, they stayed. What hotel they stayed in at New York each night. Who was going to stay? Who had to leave the next night and drive to Montreal to the next show?
Oh my God!
And then there was like a separate like party room that might have been at a different hotel. It's on. I found it online somewhere, and it's like the Genesis. And each day, each night is a different page. Even if they're in the same city, the second page would be Los Angeles. It would be the same hotel, and just like this way, you just turned the page and you knew where they were, who was responsible for what, if they were staying, if they were leaving. Pretty wild.
Right. I got to tell you, man, this is like a perfect this is like a pretty perfect set list too. Holy cow!
We were there.
No, but it's awesome. Like it's like a perfect blend of old and new. Wow.
Yeah. And the choices, and that's Phil right there. Phil is, I think he's responsible for stitching all of the stuff. He's a great arranger. And he did that even in the band back in the day. Like he wasn't a writer, but he was very good at arranging the songs, giving it the sort of flow and the rhythm that they needed to kind of, air them out, as it were, because, they could be quite stuffy, but when he's laying down his rhythm tracks and all that kind of stuff. But what he's really good at is I think he's more or less responsible for putting like the In the Cage medley together. I think that's Phil Collins doing that. I think he put the song and then songs from like Wind and Wuthering is in there on that tour.
Yep.
On the Three Sides Live, they actually added In This Quiet Earth, or and to that medley, which surprised the hell out, because I was expecting Slipperman to come in, and then all of a sudden it just bent, they, in that quiet
Wow.
earth. I was just, holy shit, they added another part to this, which was fantastic.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And Dean and Johnny, like, they're looking back at me, and I'm like,
yeah, I had no
knew.
clue.
I have no idea what's going on.
I already knew like what this shit was, like, because I had just,
yeah, I was out of my depth. I was out of my depth. I admit it. I was out of my depth, but I loved it. The show was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to side 2. And the opening track is probably the most divisive thing, and it's
everything I read about it said how offensive it was.
Well, there's two sides to it. So the song we're talking about is Illegal Alien.
Illegal Alien.
And they made a video for it as well, which kind of
on one side, really bad. I haven't seen
it either makes the case that this is kind of a harmless tongue-in-cheek song, or it makes the case that this is a racist song. The video and the song both do double duty, because there are as many people that say this is racist and stuff as other people say just relax. It's over the top. It's supposed to be stereotypical, but they're not doing it meanly. Yeah. The song isn't about illegal aliens in a mean way. It's about them trying to come to America, and what they go through, Now for Phil Collins's part, I'm not sure if he's singing with a Mexican or a Caribbean accent. It's kind of dodgy. It changes sometimes. I think towards the end, I think he changes to like a Jamaican accent.
Exactly. He's just putting on a show.
And even Tony Bennett. We just did the Pat Benatar episode where she disavows "Hit Me with Your Best Shot."
Yeah,
they haven't taken any stance on this. They're just kind of and Tony Banks like it was just in good fun. I saw one reviewer recently said this is the equivalent of like a Cheech and Chong skit.
Yeah.
Like as offensive as a Cheech and Chong thing would be is what this is. Now I went and watched the video today because I wanted to look at the comments.
Mm-hmm.
And all the comments were in a positive light, like they're taking the piss out of it, and it's just and people that may have been offended say, hey, I'm not offended by this.
I think what it is that this is such a hot button issue in the world right now that people are extra sensitive to it and through the lines.
I mean, it's not like anybody talks about this. It's not.
No, I know, but I'm saying like
it's not like this song has bubbled up.
And to be fair, there are worse songs out there. But
absolutely, there are.
You would have expected it to. Like I think we're talking about it as probably the most exposure.
Right.
Exactly. No, I mean, obviously, if you go to the Wikipedia page, you'll see that there's people that write about say this is the worst song ever. This is one of the most racist things, and there's a lot of horrible stuff, and then there's some people that defend it as well. So it's a polarizing song. The video is just ridiculous. It's ridiculous,
mm-hmm.
but it's not. I don't think it's overly stereotypical outside of like Phil Collins wearing like a big black mustache, but he's wearing a black toupee and he takes it off. I mean, it's just it's more goofy, but. Let us know.
I think he's channeling, Treasure of the Sierra Madre in a way too, with no stinking badges and that kind of. I mean, I don't know. I never really. I mean, when you think about what's to come on We Can't Dance, when they're talking about
Bugle Boy Jeans,
that and evangelism with Jesus, he knows me. I mean, that kind of shit. It wouldn't end there. It wouldn't certainly. I mean, they would just be more bold, if anything. In that regard.
I mean, but I didn't find it so much offensive as I did. I just think it's kind of a dopey song.
Yeah, it is, but it's got a nice rhythm. It's catchy.
The bass line's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it is my least favorite song. It always was because I'm generally not really into like goofy songs to begin with, so I always I never really I could do without it. I mean, it's probably the one song that I could probably take off the record and just be fine with 9 songs or whatever, or 8.
I just can't believe it was a single. Like it didn't seem. I feel like there were other songs that even outside tune that would have been better as a single.
Their choice of releases for this was. There wasn't a lot, unless you're gonna cut songs down,
mm-hmm.
Right?
But from what I understand, the record company was all for "Mama"
Yeah, they
the
were.
first single. They're kind of like, let's, we're not afraid to show what Genesis is, what this record is about. Although it's not, I don't think Mama's indicative of it as the first single.
Yeah.
That could be like if you listen to Mama and say, well, this is the new Genesis record, they'd be like, well, if it's like this.
It's not confirmed, but I know Phil has mentioned as much in when they did all those little mini docs for the reissues in 2007, and when they talked about this record, maybe the people were like, "Oh yeah, that'll be the single," because it's probably because of "In the Air Tonight."
Yeah,
I would imagine same kind of vibe, same kind of
atmospheric.
Yeah. So, but Phil had nothing to do with that. That was Mike. It was all Mike, like the Lynn drum against the amplifier, cranking that up. That's all Mike Rutherford. People think it's me, like repeating, like being derivative in that, and he's like, no, that was all Mike's idea, his thing, So Mike Rutherford getting inspired by Phil. So here we go,
turning it back on him.
Right, exactly. So because they both loved "In the Air Tonight," and they swore up and down that Phil played it for them, and they said, no, we would have used it had you played it for us, because it was
the urban legend.
Yeah. Right.
It was about Tony Banks drowning, and Phil wouldn't save him. Anyway, all right. So since we talked about we talked about Illegal Alien video and the That's All video, and there was something in common that both of those videos had, which led to a stylistic fashion choice of mine, which carried out for quite a while. That if you notice, if you look at everybody in the Illegal Alien video, they have like clothespins on their clothes. And if you look at the That's All video, they're wearing like they look like kind of homeless people, and they've got clothespins, which to indicate is like they took the clothes, they stole the clothing off of a clothing line.
So it's like a 1930s.
And this to indicate to Eric how much I was into this album is my winter jacket, I had clothespins on it. Eric remembers, right?
I do remember. He came to school and was like, what are you wearing? He's like, oh man, because
I got a bag of clothespins from like Genevieve's.
You didn't get your chops busted for it?
Not really. Everyone thought I was.
Did we not have the cap as well?
I think you started wearing like that kind of hat, that Skelly hat, or our friend Johnny did. I definitely had like a big kind of like tan overcoat, and I had like a clothespin on each, like, by the collar. It was just nobody knew.
Nobody knew what it was. It was an
but you also have to remember, in '83, girls were wearing rubber gaskets on their wrists.
That's
like Madonna, like anything went. So it didn't seem that far. I obviously didn't steal the jacket off a clothesline. It was more the way people would wear safety pins in their
I think it was less of a fashion statement than wearing a T-shirt of Genesis. A Genesis
T-shirt.
Easter egg. Exactly.
I was a walking Easter. If you knew Genesis, I was the walking Easter egg to it. I was the first Easter egg, living Easter egg.
Yep.
So and then to even go further, I was looking. I have a lot of my art from high school still. Mm-hmm. And I did paint the Mama logo, which was the gray background with the thing.
Yes.
And then I also did do a Phil Collins portrait of him from the Illegal Alien video. I did that in art class. I couldn't find it. It's got to be in one of my other bins. So for Eric to be like, I'm pleasantly surprised. When I'm looking back, I'm like, I was like knee deep in this record. I was cosplaying this before cosplaying was a thing. I was watching MTV, like picking up like the clothespin thing, and maybe our friend Johnny might have done it too.
I don't know.
I think it was a small little. We had a small little cult going of the clothespin.
We did. We absolutely did.
Kind of like an offshoot of the Walking Dead cults. We were like the clothespins. But anyway, but that just goes to show you like that. This was such an important album. And side 2, you guys said side 1 is a banger. I mean, side 2 is,
I love it.
Oh, side 2 is perfect.
I love it.
I do too.
It's a beautiful side of music.
No, I agree.
It All Too Hard. I mean, probably one of the first,
a great song,
pop ballad, but it's really,
Silver Rainbow stuck out to me too.
Oh, I love that. That's probably the underrated gem for me on the record is Silver Rainbow.
Yeah.
That's Tony Banks all the way right there. So which I've come to appreciate in the later years, how much I probably didn't appreciate him as much back in the day, but now it's like he's a formidable presence. When I listen to Genesis, he's the probably the guy I think of first at this point.
Wow.
I mean, you don't realize. I don't think unless you're really like down into the mix of like learning about the band or getting into the band and any of that kind of stuff. Like if you're just like an outsider, you don't realize what a huge role Tony Banks had in like not just keyboard wise, but just like songwriting and lyrically and all those kinds of things. Like he doesn't get enough credit.
Yeah, sure. Especially because he comes off so straight laced and so low key.
Right, exactly.
Right. So you think, oh, he's just a guy. He plays the piano.
Yeah.
And he's kind of just there tapping the keys. And you're right. And Tony Banks had said about this album, he said this is the kind of album that he's been wanting to make for a few years previous to that. Mm-hmm. Like this kind of collaboration, this kind of style.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get this done in one shot. So this when we talked about Abacab, that episode, we kind of talked about prog bands going pop and shortening things. And this album really, I think, is, like before they Invisible Touch and then everything after is really the overwash of the Phil Collins effect. Like at that point, it couldn't be, it was difficult to contain it.
It was done and it couldn't be undone.
Yeah. It was kind of like, he's larger. At this point, he still wasn't larger than Genesis. So so maybe for me, this album, because I got Invisible Touch, and I never got into it that much. I was kind of like, so this is kind of like the last, like if you had those prog snobs,
mm-hmm. This
would be the last bastion.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people say that. They say
so. There's nothing like that. So
you could make the argument for Invisible Touch to an extent as well.
It's just,
but then after it's
For me, the modern tools they were using on Invisible Touch is what did it for me. Yeah. It's too brashy. It's too. I wanted that old. I needed that organ, man. I needed those sounds that Banks is so distinctively. Like he was using the EX7 was prominent on it. Right? Yeah. Everybody was using it at the time. To me, they kind of lost their uniqueness in that sense. It became
generic.
A pop band. More pop than prog. That needle slid.
Yeah, right. I would equate this out, that album with like, let's say, Balance of Power with ELO. It's like that's sort of like going in that direction, straight laced, yeah.
So would it be fair to say that this is the last truly great Genesis record?
I think so. If it ended here, it would be a fine journey.
And we can't dance. I only know Jesus, He Knows Me.
What? They tried to come back
with the videos.
I actually prefer that over Invisible Touch. Not many people do, but there are some good tracks on that record for sure.
I mean, Jesus, He Knows Me is a great song. Like that's
Phil did a great track. He did his first long track. He's like, I want to have a go. And he did a song called Driving the Last Spike, which is about the English railroad of all because Phil's predilection for like the West and all this kind of, but in this case he's talking about the English railroad and men sacrificing their lives to do this and lay it's a great song, great drumming on it. He came back with those like fills and it changes throughout and Phil wrote it. This isn't a Tony Banks that kind of thing that you would expect from him. Yeah. Phil wrote this song. It's probably one of my favorite tracks off the record.
Yeah. And I got off the bus at Invisible Touch.
They tried to come back, but it didn't quite.
Yeah. After I got it. I listened to it maybe a couple times, but it just for me, this was kind of like, I mean, and it didn't really have. I mean, those days are gone as well. That menace, that scaredness, that creepiness.
I mean, the one I always meant to go to is Calling All Stations, just because I've heard it harkens back to some of the proggier moments.
It does, and it's not a terrible record. I mean, I really do like Ray Wilson's voice. I think,
so do I.
Yeah, a noble effort. Again, but just
being very generous,
but very. I think it's very, but but because of my, newfound appreciation for Banks, I think, it's worth a listen for that reason
I
alone.
gotta check it out.
If you're really going to go down the rabbit hole.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
So-
yeah, back to Shapes. See, I got to use the word because we were talking about so many other Genesis albums. Just a job
Shapes from a Tupperware
to do. And again, like just a great run of songs on the second side.
Yeah,
like it's a side that doesn't really, I think the first side there's only 4 songs, so it's more expansive. Besides That's All.
Right.
The other 3 songs are really individually on their own, really kind of pieces.
Yeah.
But the side 2 is you're kind of getting like the quick versions of the same type of material. It's proggy, it's rocky, but it kind of moves a little quicker, and it's going to get better is in the That's All vein, styling, but it's moving through, and I don't know if I can't say I like one side or the other better. In this case, sometimes you could say that because they're both so good, but and they're good for different reasons.
Tony Banks said the first side is the main act.
Yeah.
And the second side is character pieces. It's like spotlight characters, like, just a job to do. I mean, I never particularly like over the years. I mean, I loved it when I first heard it, but over the years, it's just so this song was kind of cheesy, the lyrics, but then you find out it's about a hitman.
Yeah. I got a name. I got a number.
Okay, well, there you go. I mean, so there's again bringing back a little bit of that storytelling, that darkness, and the drums on that song was phenomenal. One of the best drum lines. He's a monster on that song. Phil.
Yeah, and another really good like scorching vocal to match the intensity of the song.
Yeah,
and then he can pull it back with "It's Gonna Get Better" and have that really gentle.
Yeah.
Soft voice to really match the material, and unfortunately, we forgot, or I'll take credit, I forgot how good he was at doing that kind of stuff. Is even at the beginnings of when we started doing this podcast, he was an easy target.
Mm-hmm.
He really was. He really was, and it's horrible for me to do that because I really loved him so much and so much of that stuff. But that whole thing, you just get into that whole like when you think of everything in its totality, it's like, oh Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
But then when you start to pull this album out, or you pull out, when you start to pull these draws out of the dresser separately, and you look at the contents,
right.
You're able to better assess it than looking at the whole thing and being like, yeah, he produced 50 records.
Right.
Yes, he did. But, you kind of need to look at each one of those things as an individual. I think he gets more, it does better for him if you look at each one of those projects individually and what was he doing on it, as opposed to adding up all the stuff.
I mean, he definitely flooded the market for
he absolutely
for a time.
If you consider radio,
he was like the pet rock.
Yeah, he really was.
Like PLJ or like those stations at the time. When you consider like, God, the top 40 radio stations, every other song was either Phil or Genesis. Especially when Invisible Touch, and it always
or Phil adjacent.
And all you heard was that highly polished Phil, like you say, yeah, I got tired of it myself. I got fucking sick of hearing him. Like, Jesus, because after a while that voice can grate on you. You know what I mean? So I think that's where it began, where the hatred. Why is this guy so popular? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because it was unrelenting. He had Against All Odds. He had that song with Marilyn Martin.
Right.
Separate lives. He had Easy Lover. So not only was he putting out his own material, which was voluminous,
right.
But the thing of it was that he would take every opportunity given to him, and a lot of this stuff was given to him. Like, he didn't write Separate Lives. That song was given to him by Stephen Bishop. Say, here, you do this, and Phil's like, all right, because they were good friends, and so. Making friends in the loop, playing drums for Robert Plant on 2 records. Paul McCartney,
Clapton twice.
Clapton,
not Steven Stills, David Crosby.
That's right.
I mean, I can't say if we were in the same position, we wouldn't do the same.
Right.
And
then you had like gimmicks too. Like, I think he did Live Aid. He played both Live Aid concerts because of the Concorde, and then he took, rightly or wrongly, he took the heat for why Led Zeppelin's performance went so.
He didn't know.
They blame him for it.
They blame him, and I think that had a.
I thought they sucked. I thought Plant and Page they were out
of tune. But the point is he took the hit, and I think that whole idea of like, are we really dealing with this guy again? I think that didn't help it either. So
he didn't know. Plant told him like I think it was on his way.
Oh my God.
When Robert Plant told him, hey, you know what this is, right? He's like, he thought he was just playing Robert Plant because he had toured with him.
That's crazy.
He didn't know it was a Zeppelin. So
wait, he didn't just play on the records. He toured with Plant. So he went out as like a sideman to Robert. Wow.
Yeah. He played drums on, was the Principle of Moments tour. Yeah.
Wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm telling you.
And Eric Clapton too, like on the August tour, he played, quite a few dates.
Yeah. He worked, this guy worked himself to death and you wonder why he's in the shape that he's in.
Fair point.
I mean, he literally, I don't mean that in a funny way. The guy was on 11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole time because he had the opportunities. He took them. He paid a price for those. He paid a price for that. It came at a cost.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But now the worm has turned. Time heals all wounds. It healed ELO's wounds. It's healing his wounds. He's getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a solo artist, and like I said, when you get away from it, then you can assess it. You can miss it.
Mm-hmm.
You can
absolutely.
You can maybe forget about Buster or forget about some of the misses. Like you can you don't have to take everything. You can kind of look at the highlights and say, wow, like he did a lot, but 90% of it was really high quality too. It wasn't like he just did stuff and it was like crappy. Right. He did Easy Lover and it was great. He worked with Frida and he gave the one of the voices of ABBA a totally different sound. Like, so the things he was doing felt like he was everywhere, but he was making meaningful contributions, and he was a hit maker. Like no one heard of Philip Bailey unless you were an Earth, Wind and Fire fan. You knew his voice, but you didn't know his name.
Right.
Until Easy Lover.
He put him out, so it's one of those things where, damned if you do and damned if you don't. Because if he didn't, he probably would have regretted it.
Right.
And you wonder why, like, sappy song after sappy song. Well, that was him coming back to the fold and writing what he's used to writing, which was wearing his heart on his sleeve, harkening back to Face Value. So people were like, why aren't you doing, why is it just ballads? And because if you consider that mixed with everything else he was doing around him, it kind of makes sense. He wanted to do stuff for his children. He started having a lot of kids, and he did the Tarzan soundtrack. He won an Academy Award for it. Like Grammys up the yin yang. I mean, it was just. And he was considered, and
TV, Miami Vice, and
I remember Rolling Stone issue of Rolling Stone. I think it was probably in the late '90s. I think he was on the cover, and it broke my heart because at that point I wasn't really I myself had kind of feel bad about it because I myself kind of got out of him and wasn't really listening to what a lot of the new stuff he was doing at the time. But the things he was saying, he almost ended it because he was like, I was considered the most hated musician on the planet.
South Park did a whole, there was a whole episode that he was a running gag in the episode.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be tough. And I'm looking at the lyric credits for Shapes, and Phil Collins only has lyric credits on Mama, and that's all.
Yep.
So, Genesis also seems like a safe landing place for him.
It's very egalitarian.
Where he can kind of come in and he doesn't have to do everything.
Right.
When you're a solo artist, you're driving everything, and then he would self-produce, and Genesis is almost kind of like that, kind of like I can go and even though I'm Phil Collins, I can still assimilate into that because I've got people that are capable, that I trust, that write really good.
Yeah. It's the sum of its parts.
Yeah.
It's definitely,
100%.
No doubt.
And this album is really
and that formula has worked up until to the very end, which I'm so happy about. That's one band that there was never any huge animosity. Even when Peter left, they still respect each other.
I
They
mean,
still love each other.
right.
You know,
when any of them left, when Hackett left,
right?
when Phil left, there was always a respect
Yeah.
that held for sure.
Yep.
That English charm. Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, Mike Rutherford has the most amount of lyric writing credits on this album. He wrote 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He pretty much wrote all of side 2, except for Silver Rainbow.
Yeah.
Like, and then Tony Banks has Home by the Sea and Second Home by the Sea, and Phil Collins has the first 2. So, and you would never know that, to
Mhm.
be honest. I didn't realize that until I just looked, because I didn't really look, because I was just concerned that they were writing together.
Yeah.
But that's pretty cohesive. Something
Very.
like It's Gonna Get Better, that sounds like something that Phil would write.
I love that song.
Right? That sounds like
Yeah.
something that would be
Yeah.
like alongside Take Me Home on No Jacket Required or something, right? It's like
Right.
it's in that same type of thing. So when you've got people that can write for you,
Yeah.
Genesis becomes kind of like a safe haven where you can kind of dip in, be productive, do stuff, but not have the weight of the world on your shoulders.
If you could listen to these songs and not care who wrote what
Right.
specifically,
Yeah, even
I
taking
think
it all too hard.
that says a lot.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. And that's me. Like anything they've ever done is like I don't really care who wrote what. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, yeah, there are standout moments where but it's just, yeah, and that says a lot about the chemistry and the sort of
Eric, where does this album rank for you? Because you're the resident Genesis, and I don't listen to. Full disclosure, I've never listened to a Genesis album with Peter Gabriel on it. It's just I'm not there. But you taking in the totality, or if you want to separate the Gabriel era out of it, where does this album fit for you?
If you really want to look at, focus sort of squarely on the pop era,
The trio era.
It might be my favorite.
Okay.
It's certainly the one I'm most nostalgic for, like I said. But there are, but then I always go back to Abacab, and I'm probably the minority here. A lot of people do not like that album at all.
I see it here because I love Abacab.
I see it as just as experimental as anything they did in the past. To me, they were trying to develop a certain sound, but I think this album is the result of that.
Right, Abacab almost feels like a demo in some respects. Like when you listen to it,
I love the album Abacab. It's brilliant. It's brilliant stuff. Okay, so now let me put a question out to the both of you. I was thinking about this when I was driving. I do a lot of listening when I'm driving, so I'm driving.
Me too.
And then the notion came to me of, does Genesis qualify as one of the greatest trios in rock? Because they didn't start out as a trio, but they ended or had most of their career as a trio. So is Genesis considered a true trio when you talk about the Police trios, you talk about Motorhead, you talk about Rush, you talk about Triumph, you talk about whatever the great trios are, is Genesis in that conversation, or are they not disqualified, but not even just thought of because of their history?
I wouldn't disqualify them, but I would say that, like, for me, I don't know that I'd consider them to be one of my favorite trios, only because
not favorite, are they considered a trio? Like, are they in the conversation of greatest trios?
To me, I don't think so, just because I think their greatest music was recorded while they were in a trio. Like, as great as this album is, as great as Duke is, as great as Abacab is,
watch your step.
My personal favorite Genesis records are Trick of the Tail, and Selling England by the Pound. So I never really think of them as a great trio, because to me their greatest work was when they were 4 members or more.
All
so
right.
that's just me.
And for that reason alone, I think because they have so much history. And again, the chemistry has always been there.
Whatever lineup, there's always like great music that comes out of it.
When you consider, there's just so many different facets to this band, which is why I love them so much. I think it was Nick that put it out on Facebook. If you were to listen to only one band for the rest of your life, who would it be? And I think I had to say, but I also would have to include, solo material, probably not stuff that they produce, like Phil, like none of that stuff, But if if I picked solo material along with the whole umbrella of what they've done, I think they would be it. I honestly think, there's just so much there.
So no to the trios.
No to the trio.
No,
Sorry,
no.
but
No, I'm just wondering because they spent probably twice the length of their career as a trio.
But material wise, if you go back to like say Trespass is to me the first truly Genesis record. How many records did they record that were 4 or more people versus how many they recorded that were only 3? So,
well,
yeah,
and then there were 3: Duke,
Abacab,
Genesis, Invisible Touch, We Can't Dance.
That's
6, and then was that it for Phil after We Can't Dance? Did I miss something after? Or
yeah, he
got Trespass, Nursery Crime, Foxtrot, Selling England by the Pound,
6,
The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, Trick of the Tail,
and Wind and Wuthering.
Wind and Wuthering. So you got 7 records where there are 4 or more people. And that doesn't include Genesis Live or 3 or.
Why do we have a teacher on the show?
It doesn't. What also doesn't include Calling All Stations, because I think technically not a trio on that record because there's another drummer on the song. I don't even know who that
Out
is.
too. I forgot Seconds Out. Nick, there are actually 2 drummers.
Live albums don't count.
There's 2 drummers on Calling All Stations. Nick DiVirgilio, who played with Kevin Gilbert and the band
Anton Fig.
Spock's Beard. No, not Anton Fig. I forget who the other guy is. I forget his name. The one that toured with them.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we've reminisced. I think we've celebrated the greatness of this album. Chris, I'm glad it was a surprise for you because it is when you think of Genesis in the 80s, you kind of think of you probably more than likely think of Invisible Touch. Like that was the looming, that would be the monster album.
I mean, and the thing is I was always told Duke, and again, because my dad's a prog guy, and I had a teacher who was into prog, and I was always told you stop at Duke. And then after we did the Duke episode, I went one more and I listened to Abacab, and it's good, but I didn't love it. Like this album I put on, and from the first track to the end, I really did love the album for all intent and purposes. I really think this is a fantastic record.
You know what it is? I think this album has like a heart. It's got like a warm feeling to me. It
does.
It feels it's not comfort music, but it feels comfortable.
Absolutely.
Right.
I know exactly what you're saying.
And for you guys, there's also that like time and place thing. Like this is for I would think for you guys when you drop this record on, it's like it takes you to a time and place. Like I know, like listening to like Nirvana or like some of the just like Nirvana or some of the grunge bands in the 90s would do for me.
Yeah, but I mean, like I've said many times, when we do these episodes, I always end up reapproaching the album and reassessing it. And so what I'm feeling about it now isn't based on nostalgia. It's based on re-listening to it and appreciating the depth of it. When you're younger, you kind of listen to music. It's cool. It's my favorite artist. There's videos. Like it's a different thing. Yeah, you love the music, but now when I'm listening to it, I'm just enveloping myself in the warmth of it and the emotion, the vocal performances. I wasn't listening to like Phil Collins like vocal performance then. I was just listening to the music. That it's a cool song. It's a great song. It's I like it. I'm going to go watch them. I'm going to see them in concert.
Yeah.
But I think why I love doing this is reassessing these older ones. Yep. That you would just listen to as throw-offs because you've had them in your life for 30 or 40 years.
Right.
Yeah.
But now when I do it, I really try and I don't blindly listen to it, even though it's easy to do that. I kind of reapproach it,
right.
and try and get something different out of it. And that's why I love doing this, because I do. And I get so much more like the album grows even further than what it was for me. Which is good. It gets like a second or third life out of it beyond. I can just always put it on because I loved it since I was a kid. It's like that. Yeah, that's it'll get you only so far.
Fair point.
Right?
Yeah.
Like Eric, because that's what happened to Eric. He admitted it, and he kind of stopped listening to a lot of the stuff. He stopped listening to Styx and he stopped listening to a lot of that stuff because he moved on to other, he was exploring
like
other
we all do.
careers, right? And it's and I'm sure I did it too. And it's easy for that kind of stuff, for a lot of people to kind of chuck it away or park it while you're doing other things, and maybe that's what's so magical about reassessing it is you kind of fall in love with it again, but maybe for different reasons.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
Apart from there. So that's
you hear something you haven't heard before.
Yeah, that's my passionate plea about my love of music.
The soapbox moment of the day.
I'll step off, but not without first saying. Creepiest thing in rock music.
I would say the worst thing about this album is the cover. I hate the cover.
I dig it.
It's
so low key. I dig it.
Not that their covers were ever great. I was never a huge fan of.
Yeah.
The Lamb is probably a phenomenal cover. I love that cover. It's such, but other than that, I was never a huge fan of any of their.
Yeah.
My favorite cover is from Genesis to Revelation.
None More Black.
I never listened to the album, but I love the cover.
It's a weird album. But what I always found funny about it is that I remember because my mom worked for Tupperware. I had the toy that those shapes come from. It's like it's a red and blue ball that you would match the shapes, and you would have to like figure out the shape to put the shape in, like for little kids.
I appreciate the guy, Peter Blake, I think, took the photo. Like, I appreciate that, that he actually lay down on the floor and, shot that, all these shapes, and the lighting and everything, whatever. But I don't know. It's just kind of like,
it's unique because it doesn't have the usual Genesis font logo.
Yeah.
And then they would change their logo again with it looks like it's painted like with a paintbrush, like it was like the later stuff. So it's kind of like this nondescript weird album that just says Genesis on it.
Yeah.
And it's there's nothing else there. It's just kind of like Genesis, and there's
I always equated it with Halloween too. The fact that it came out in October and it has the orange and black on it. It always reminded me of the fall or Halloween. So so that's something. But anyway,
I don't think we need to do favorite songs because this one's just a banger. It's just
wherever the needle falls for sure.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a 90125 or a Moving Pictures. It's one of those prog albums that you can. Yeah. This one probably I'd put it up there above even Moving Pictures or of that ilk because
I don't know if I'd go that far, but
what's that?
I don't know if I'd go that far.
As far as someone who's not into prog to give them an album to listen to.
You know what? Okay, I thought you meant one better than the other.
I mean on the prog bands that went pop.
Yeah.
Scale, because Abacab was the same thing, but I think this one, it's like you said, it satisfies the prog appetite, but doesn't overstay its welcome that way. But it is firmly there.
Yeah, it is.
But it's really well done, and it's buffed to a mirror shine, not in the production, but in the way it's presented.
Yeah, it's accessible.
The way it's digestible.
It's kind of like not to belabor any or keep going, but it's kind of like when we talked about Drama. When we talked about Drama, we talked about the idea that it's a prog album that's accessible to the non-prog fan. I think there's a lot of parallels to that from that record to this one.
We should do another episode about Drama.
That's such a great record.
And just talk about it more. I think we should just do another either redo that episode again and have it exist, or do a second episode about Drama and how we talk more about Trevor Horn.
Sounds good. Well, you could do a lot of Trevor Horn.
We'll just do a Buggles album. We'll just do the Buggles.
Have you guys done 90125 yet?
Not yet. It's still we still have a lot of prog pop albums to mine. We got a lot to go.
There were a lot of them in the 80s.
Yeah, we got GTR to go through. No, we're not going
to. I took a hard listen to that recently, and man, it holds up.
Okay.
Yeah,
there you go. 90125 will be in the hopper at some point too. So I think we're going to leave it there. I think we've opined on it, but you really, oh God, we can't opine enough on it. It's just a brilliant record. And again, 83 between Abacab and this, technology was changing, but they still were using it the right way and still kind of, Hadn't tilted, hadn't swung the pendulum all the way over.
Not too much sheen yet.
Yeah. So it's a great one. It's on all the streamers. I actually have the CD. I have the vinyl. Had the cassette, so I pretty much covered all the bases on this one. It was one of those, it's a gem. So we highly recommend you check it out. Let us know about it as well. Check it out and let us know. Like Chris, he checked it out and he was pleasantly surprised. So
very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, indulge. It's quick. It's 9 songs, but it keeps you moving, and it's really great. If you love Phil and you've never heard this before, it's kind of like unearthing a treasure because it's a really great release by them. So that's going to do it for this episode of the 3324 podcast. Mr. Christopher Clark, I don't think I introduced you in the beginning.
Yes, you did.
You did.
You absolutely did.
I did? Okay.
Yes.
I take it back.
Again, I'm part of the furniture at this point.
Yeah, so then I'm here all the time. So if I introduce you in the beginning, I'll have to thank you at the end.
There you go. But thank you for having me. And
of course.
And again, I really appreciate that we did this record because I do have a newfound appreciation for this album. So good stuff.
Good to hear. We're unearthing. We're digging through the past.
Yes, we are.
Sounds like a Lord Year Run song. I think it is.
Yes, it probably is.
Digging up the past. Anyway, Eric will be on his couch. You're not watching it on video, but he rotates his poster out behind him each month. So we look forward to it when we join him and see what the pick will be. The next time we reconvene, it'll be a new month. So I do expect to see a new poster, or maybe it'll be down in the meantime. And then I'll be here on my gaming chair until we meet again. Again, hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, and or YouTube. Give us a follow. We've got well over 280 something other episodes for you to check out. We're marching towards episode 300. We will get there in 2026, I believe. So we'll have to, I always plan to do something, episode 100, 200. We never do it. It just kind of comes and goes. So let me make that promise to you. I promise we'll talk about doing something for episode 300.
There you go.
I don't know if we will, but
that's a plan.
I promise we'll talk about it. For Chris, for Eric, this has been Dean, and we will catch you on the flip side.
You've been listening to the 3324 podcast with Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, so please like, subscribe, and rate to become a part of the 3324 family. Your feedback is important, so make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 3324 podcast and on Twitter at 3324p to join the conversation.